Culture on Tap. We are a podcast that is about bridging the cultural gap one conversation at a time. We have myself, Xavier. We have Dale Young sitting to my left. And we have Range Armentar sitting behind the camera. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share on anywhere you listen or watch podcasts. And make sure to hit the bell so you can get the notifications whenever we have new content so you can tap in with us. And so that we can be a resource for you, whether to challenge and or encourage you. ...
So, fun facts is not just Range. This is the fun fact that I learned. Maybe y'all already knew. We're fixing to find out. What do you call... So, like, if you walk in your bedroom and you have clothes folded and you open the drawer, put the clothes in, and shut the drawer, what would you call that piece of furniture?
Like where you put the clothes?
Yeah.
Dresser.
Another name for it.
I call it a dresser. Chest of drawers.
Okay, chest of drawers.
I heard that.
It's not a chest of drawers. It's a chest
of
That's what
drawers.
I said.
Oh, okay.
I
I
said
thought it was a Chester drawers.
No, I said
chest of.
I thought it was a Chester drawers. Like
Chester?
I thought it was Chester's. Like I thought it was Chester.
Like, who's Chester? Like, did he
I
come up
thought
with this?
he created this cabinet that holds clothes. Did not know that. Like literally
Chest of
thought.
drawers.
Yeah, chest of drawers.
I thought. I mean, it makes logical sense when you say it.
Yeah.
It's a chest of drawers, but
Yeah.
I thought it was Chester drawers. Like literally. I guess
So are you one, this is similar, but are you one who says supposedly or supposedly? Because it's supposedly, not supposably.
I'll probably say supposedly.
Supposedly, for sure.
Supposedly?
So-
But it's actually supposedly.
So is it an old wives' tale or
I can't spell it either
So
way.
here's another one.
I'm
here's another one. Is it an old wives' tale or an old wives' tale?
Wise.
I say wise.
Wise.
Is it wives?
It's wives.
Ah,
Really?
I don't know that.
I mean, but to me, logically, it should be wise.
Wise, yeah.
And yeah, but it's wives' tale. So.
So, is it, while we're on this trail,
Oh, here we go. Rango does like, is it apple?
not far from that. So, is it pet smart or pets marked?
That's it.
Pet smart, isn't it?
I don't know. I didn't
It's
come
pet
up with it.
smart. Like pets marked.
Yeah, it's
Like it's their mark.
Yeah, it's the pets
so.
marked.
I actually have the correct answer for this.
Okay.
They put the two words together because their answer is either way is a yes. If it's pet smart, that means this is a smart place to
To
get
get
your
stuff for
your
your
pet. If it's pets mart, it's the market
For your pets. Huh. Well, look at there.
Look at there.
Look at there.
There was another one I had, and I can't remember what it was now.
Yeah, there's like 5 of them
Mm-hmm.
that like are regularly in my head, but
Right.
for whatever reason I can't think of them right now. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you one that I get wrong quite often. I know it's be specific, and Pacific is the ocean, but I will say
Be Pacific.
be Pacific quite often, and I know I do it.
Yeah.
I know the correct way to say it. I just
Yeah.
it doesn't come out.
Yeah. I used to say as a kid, I used to say ax instead of ask.
Okay.
Like, can you ask my mom for that?
Yeah.
Instead of ask. And like I ain't really changed it until I was like 20. So, a 19-year-old adult talking about, hey, let me ask you something right quick. You sound like it's cute when you a kid, and it's kind of like,
Yeah.
19? Nah, bro.
Yeah.
You need to fix that.
Yeah.
Like,
What was the one? This is the same thing, but it's in the same line. And I know you know this. What is the next line of this range? And just so we're clear, if you get it wrong, we got it wrong. Hi ho, hi ho, hi ho.
It's off to work we go.
Nope.
We got it wrong too.
It's
What is it?
hi ho, hi ho, hi ho. It's home to work.
Home from work.
Oh, that was home to work we go.
That don't make no sense. It's home from work we go.
Let's see.
Yeah. But it's home.
Not
whatever
off.
it is, it's not off to work we go.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we didn't either. What's that called?
Mandela effect.
Yeah.
I guarantee you he has no idea what that just means.
No, I agree. That absolutely, that's what it is. I never heard.
Yeah. I thought it was home from work we go. Could be.
I was trying to find the lyrics. Here we go. Dig, 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 dig. It's home from work we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what a Mandela effect is?
No.
So Mandela effect is when you believe something to be true, but it's never like, and a lot of people do. It's not just you. Like it's like a ton of people believe this is true, but no one has said it's true. Somehow it just
comes off as this is what the
Right.
truth of this matter is.
And the reason it's called the Mandela effect is because Nelson Mandela, if you polled people around the world, not because you don't have a clue who Nelson Mandela is. No clue. Of course not. Back when this was a thing, if you polled people assumed he was dead when he was actually just in jail. Wasn't that what it was? They thought he was dead, and he wasn't. Like a huge one is the sweepstakes. What was that guy's name? I can't think of his name. Anyways, it was the guy that did the letter in the mail, you'll win millions of dollars sweepstakes or whatever. Anyways,
Publishers Clearance House or whatever it's called.
yeah, what's his name?
Oh, I don't know.
If you would have known that,
I was shocked that he got published.
I would have flipped tables.
There
This
used to be a
is-
commercial on TV all the time. Whenever we used to have to watch commercials.
See, hold on. Publishers Clearinghouse. We are just literally on this line.
What was that guy's
Ed
name?
McMahon.
There you go.
But here's the Nelson Mandela effect. He's not on Publishers Clearinghouse.
What are you talking about?
That's
He's just an actor on a commercial?
no. He's not even on the commercials. He's never been on a Publishers Clearinghouse anything.
What is he on then?
He does something sweepstakes, and people join the two together. And I'm with you. I swear up and down, Publishers Clearinghouse was Ed McMahon, but it's not.
Okay.
Yeah, Mandela effect. We're just rambling now. So, was this a Monday get together? What is this?
No,
this is
this
fun
is
fact.
this episode.
We're on the episode. I don't even know what we're doing.
This is the episode.
So, all of that happened just right now.
Has absolutely
Welcome to our
nothing
friendship.
to do with what we're talking about.
Yeah. So, we today are talking about
Grief.
And if you watched our episode a couple episodes back, we kind of decided we wanted to talk about this because of just different things going on in our lives. So we could just start with what comes to mind when you think about grief.
I think pain and waiting comes to mind for me. The pain of whatever you're grieving, but also you're just waiting. Like, even in the midst of working through things, it's still a waiting to, whether it's waiting for your emotions to subside, waiting for some relief in the midst of your grief, waiting for healing, whatever the case may be. It's just that's what comes to mind for me: pain and waiting.
I think the thing that when you say grief, the first thing that comes to my mind is, off the top of my head, is opinion. I feel like everyone has an opinion, whether it's because of how they chose to walk through grief or what they think as they watched other people do it, whether they liked the way they do it or they didn't like the way they do it. I feel like most people have an opinion, even if they don't verbalize it, of what quote unquote grief looks like. So what are some of the biggest mistakes that we see around grieving?
That most of the time we don't do it. Like, it's something that we just kind of either stuff down. It's something that we, in the midst of the hustle and bustle of this consumeristic mindset, is we don't have time to actually grieve. So we've got to keep moving. And if I get to it, I will. If not, it's okay. I'll just wait until I'm at my wit's end, where there is so much that has been stuffed that I can't stuff it anymore. So I have to deal with all of this trash that is in my yard.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think as a whole, from what I see, from what I've experienced, I can't remember who I shared with, that over the course of this my aunt passing away, I realized that I didn't even grieve my cousin from 7 years ago.
You shared that with me.
That was you?
Yeah.
And it was like, because I just stuffed it down.
Yeah.
And I had to keep moving. But whenever I stopped and sat and actually in process of dealing with it, I realized that I didn't even grieve her.
So I would say, I feel like the biggest mistake I see around grieving is we tend to want to paint the same picture for everyone. And I think that's a scary, because I think that leads to for the person that's in the situation, a fear of grieving. Because I think there is a ton of expectations. Unfortunately, in ministry, I have been a part of a ton of people that have passed away. I didn't realize this the other day. I have helped people walk through death probably 3 times more than I've done weddings. And I think some of this might sound morbid, but I think that's who I am as a person. I don't want to say enjoy people dying, but I thrive in people's hurt and crisis more than enjoy doing weddings. Not that I don't want to see people get married. Like, I'm perfectly fine with you picking someone else to do your wedding. I want to be there for people that are hurting. I just think that's who I am as a person. But over the years, I've watched people come in and almost try to dictate how people should grieve, which is, I feel like, subconsciously grieving is a scary place, because I feel like there's a ton of people watching. Because we're going to get to in a minute, is there a wrong way or is there sin when it comes to grieving? Is there a healthy way? I'm a big believer in, caveat, not totality, but allowing people to grieve their own way. Some people are very visual, emotionally broke down people. Some people aren't. Some people grieve very quickly and move on quickly, and like most people go, oh, they didn't grieve. That's not true. There are some people that like the way they're wired, they process through that faster. Some people, it takes years before they're ready to grieve. I know for me, there have been multiple people in my life, like, not that I was afraid to grieve in that moment, but I just didn't. I wasn't opposed to it, and then years later, like, something triggered where I'm like, oh, I'm walking through this now. But I also think most people, the grace window for people to grieve is very limited. And I think that I feel like for most people, we give them a healthy week depending on the situation, you could get two.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we like, and I don't mean this ugly. I feel like from most people, if they died unexpectedly or something's very tragic, you got a good 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
If it's more
If
natural,
they're close to you.
yeah, if they're close to you.
Mm-hmm.
If it's more natural, you got a week.
Mm-hmm.
Like you got to move on. And I think that's.
Do you feel? Sorry,
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
Do you feel that that's like a picture of how it is, like in the culture that you came up in? Because ours is a lot more different in the sense of you have like a year. You have
100%.
You have like the milestones, like your first Christmas without them, your first Thanksgiving, their first birthday, like milestone moments like that. And then after that, it's like, okay, after that year, you've got to get over it.
No, even honestly, watching. So, there's a couple things I noticed. They're different in the way I was brought up, and the way watching y'all at the funeral. It was different. Way more. Open emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up, and again, unless it's tragic, unexpected, you should not act that way. They're in heaven, so you should keep it together.
Once saved, always saved.
Once saved, always saved. And then, remember that one time? I shouldn't have said that right now. This is not. You did that today. But it's so weird. So like, a year is absurd. Like I've never So I remember when my uncle passed away unexpectedly at Thanksgiving time. The reality was his children and wife were given grace to still be mourning at Christmas, but the rest of us should be ready to rock by Christmas, which is crazy. That's a month later, which was very like we could say like we miss him, but it should not affect like you could like our mindset was you can be upset or like miss someone, but it should not affect how you treat everyone around you. Like you should be able
to still function.
Just like it should not struggle in your outward view of life. And so that it clearly is a cultural thing. I don't know how it was for you, Range.
Yeah, so I was actually just thinking, yeah, you didn't get much time. Like, so my grandpa passed away, I don't remember the days of the week, but 2 days, so September 9th of 2001. So 2 days before September 11th happened. Basically, and it was unexpected.
That was a Sunday.
Yeah.
Because September 11th happened on a Tuesday.
On a Tuesday. Yeah. No, yeah. And so basically, by the next Monday, everybody was supposed to be back to business as usual.
Bro, that's crazy. Like, no disrespect.
No. And thinking back, I'm like,
I can't like a week or even a month, like you're talking about. Like that's
so. Like even so, let's talk about in your situation, when your aunt when things turned worse, even before she passed away. Like you kind of went silent. There was a part of me that was like, why is he not communicating? Like, why is he like? Because that's not like in our household. What would have happened? And I mean, and you might have vaguely remember this when my mentor's wife passed away. We were just raised that there's constant communication. If it's not from per se me, my significant other is going to be communicating how I am doing, how we're doing. Like there's being silent was not an option, and I'm not even saying that that's wrong. Like it's just different. Like like for me. And I think I even shared this with you. Like I started panicking because I don't know what's going on with you, and I just never done it that way.
Yeah.
So that's why I told you. Like after the fact, I just started fasting and praying because I didn't even know how to be there for you. So I just did the only thing.
You didn't even know what was going on.
Yeah, and so it's so different, and maybe it's just in the cultures that we raised in. Because I even remember when my mentor's wife passed away from the church. I was given a second week, so she died. I was there all that week. His kids called me and said he is not doing well. So I went back down there I think I just stayed. Michelle came home and I stayed. And I was informed, like, you stay and do another week. But when it was not said to me, but it was implied. Because when you come back, be ready.
Hit the ground running.
Hit the ground running. Which, in my head, I was like so thankful to get a second week. But now I look back and go, is that what you want? Like, someone that hasn't really walked through this completely? I don't know. It's just a weird.
Yeah, that's crazy because it's not said that you have a year to get over it.
Right.
In
Yeah.
our case either, but it's implied like
It's basically like
you've done the gauntlet of your first Thanksgiving, your first Christmas, your first all of these first
right
without them. So, all right, business as usual.
right.
There's still remembrance, and there's still it's not just but it's just like it's not a week or a month. It's just
like in ours was even like you don't even talk about it. Like once you hit that spot of no, we don't expect you not to realize this is the first Christmas without them, or we don't expect you their birthdays rolled around, or your birthday's rolled about, or Father's Day's rolled around, Mother's Day, whatever. But you just don't talk about it. Like you should be. And here's the crazy part: especially if you're a Christian, you should have leaned on Jesus enough now that you are good, which is really weird when you think about it. Like, so I mean, it kind of leads to the next question. So
before that question, like, what does grieving look like for y'all? You feel like you personally, like, what does it look like? Because to your point, it looks different for everybody, different timelines, all of the above. But like for you, what does it actually look like?
So for me, it's progressively changed. So for a long time, for me, I needed to stay busy, not to go into a place of depression. And not that I wasn't processing, but my mindset was always, it's still got to be done. And so I feel like the interesting part is probably in the last 2 to 3 years is the first times in my life that I have been given the opportunity just to sit back and like grieve properly, what I would consider properly.
Right.
And the thing is, I don't think it was not allowed. I don't think I knew how.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
To just seek God and it not break me. Like for me, it was a fear of if I dwell on this, what's going to happen?
Yeah. Like,
who am I going to be at the end of this? Because I remember this, and this isn't a knock on anyone. This is crazy. Because I've always been someone that just put a Band-Aid on it. Let's keep moving.
Yeah.
The night that they called me that Ronnie died in the car accident. And maybe like some people would go, that was just shock and you didn't know what else to do. We'd already agreed it's too late to leave tonight. We're going to leave tomorrow to Mississippi to get there. But I looked at Michelle because we'd already had tickets to go watch Mary Poppins at Tut's. And I said, well, let's get dressed. Like we can't get a refund. So we literally got dressed, went out to dinner, and went down to Tut's and pretended to watch, even though we love Mary Poppins, the live broadcast Broadway show of Mary Poppins. And I remember none of it. I look back on it now, I'm like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what, like, but in my head, I was like, I just got to keep swimming. Like, literally, find a new, just keep swimming. And so I felt like for the longest, that's who I've been. But in the last, I would say in the last few years, I've really tried. And I'll tell you when it started. When you had me read that dumb book. That's when it all. I can't even think of the title of it right now. What was it?
Something disguised. I'll think of it here in a second.
Anyways, you were reading it.
Grace Disguised.
Grace Disguised.
Yeah.
You were reading it, so I went and bought it, and I was like, crap.
Yeah.
Like I've got to dive into this. But I would say, like, so you asking that question, the thing I still ponder myself is, where is grief? Like, where's the line of healthy and unhealthy? Because I do agree at the funeral. One thing that Billy said was allow people to grieve their own way, and in the simplest of forms, I do agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of talking, like, piggybacking all of this with not that we have to get on the questions, but I do believe grief can go wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I think we have to be careful of saying you can grieve anyway, but I also think that we have to go, even in their grief, if sin's involved, God's bigger than that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think we have to go, well, they're grieving, so let them
Wild
out.
Yeah,
And honestly, I think for me, when I look back, because grieving is not just death. Looking back on my life, I think I grieved harder in my life when everything went down leaving Tennessee Community Church than anything else I've ever been through. And I did not grieve well at all. And so it took me probably 3 years after that to find peace, to where my outward expression towards it matched what was going on in the inside.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but I think it took that long, which is about the same time that stupid book came around. I'm joking. The book is very challenging and very good. But I've read a couple of books now since then. Other ones that because you read a lot more on grief than I do.
Or depression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've really tried to hone in on that. So I guess for you, because I feel like this is somewhere that you're in that season, which I would say in a different way I'm in that season too. I talked about that a couple weeks ago. My daughter's been diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and there is a level of grieving because, just like with grieving, everybody has an opinion on how we should be handling that.
Right.
And again, I don't want to be the guy that goes, I am thankful that it's not terminal and it's not that. But when your daughter, who's 15, gets the news that this is forever, and you watch the color leave her skin, and you watch the defeat hit her shoulders, and then she looks at you and says, what if mine's so bad that I can't have kids, or I can never hold my kids, or what if no one wants to marry me because I literally can't get out of bed? Like, literally 2 nights ago, she just laid in bed crying. And so there's a level of grief in that, and going, it's not death, but it's still asking God why.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's not asking God why out of resentment and anger. It's asking God why because I know you're sovereign and you have the answer.
Yeah.
And even in that, and I think people do it way worse when it's death, even in that, I've had people go, oh, my cousin has fibromyalgia, and they're fine.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be fine.
That's not
Do healthy eating, clean eating, or, if she gets more rest. And I'm like, amazing. Since all of you were doctors, I should have came to you before I had to go to all of them. Mm-hmm. And so like it's I think for me, and I want you to speak of this. I've talked a bunch. Okay. I think that grieving goes wrong because no one believes in doing it right. I think people say they want to, but we have our superficial expressions of. And here's a prime example. If you go to, I feel this way. Maybe you don't. Feel free for y'all to tell me you disagree. If I, not now, but when I was younger, if I go to a funeral, if there is someone there crying their eyes out and wailing and can't get it under control, I immediately assume that means they don't have faith. Which is absolutely absurd. Mm-hmm. Like I look at it now and go, maybe this is just really like maybe this is the fifth death they've dealt with in the last couple. Like who knows why they can't get it together. Mm-hmm. And then on the other hand, if I see someone that like it's their spouse and I see that like they're struggling, but they're keeping it together, I'm like, man, look at like they are killing it. Yeah. And really maybe they're not at all. Right. And so like I feel like even in moments of sadness, we have so much expectation on people, like who could possibly do it healthy?
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. I think for me, this has been different. I feel like this is the only time besides that I can remember besides the time I was 8 years old and my cousin passed away in a car accident. He was 21 and he's really one of the ones who I got to love soccer from. And I can look back on it now and I feel as though I grieved as an 8-year-old healthily, right, than I have all the way up until now with loss, with traumatic events, with whatever. And I think this one is different because I wasn't able to do. Right. I think that's a big reason why I've just been sitting. And that always won't be possible. Is just circumstantial with not being able to move, literally. So I was able to just go through a Rolodex. I was able to basically do an audit on my life with my aunt. The good, the bad, the indifferent, the hostile. Well, there wasn't no hostility, but just everything. I was able to go through what I feel as though is everything, and but I don't ever think with grief. I don't ever think that there is a place of wholeness.
Like, what do you elaborate on that?
I don't think that I will ever be to the place of where I am completely okay with her loss, because it's still a loss. Now, right. I don't mean wholeness in the sense of in Jesus, in Christ. I mean wholeness from the sense of there's not going to be heartbreak whenever I think, because I won't see her until right. Eternity shore. So on this side of heaven, that's what I mean. Like, I don't think that there's going to be a place of where I'm just completely okay. You know what I'm saying? And so you go, or at least for me, the way that I grieved was going through the good, going through the bad. And there was memories that I was telling Lauren that I had completely forgot about. And it was funny. There are times where I just cried, but I just came up with this working definition, and I don't know I don't know, if it's right or whatever. This is just how I processed it. But grief is love directing the realities of loss to the hope that's to come. So I feel as though if you haven't experienced love, you can't experience grief. Because love is what directs you to the place of hope, because that's where the grief came from, if that makes sense. If you're picking up what I'm putting down. And for me, it's taking me going through all of this process of remembering the good, remembering the bad, remembering the funny, remembering the Disney trip, remembering the New York trip, remembering all of these moments, and remembering the good, remembering the love that was expressed, and not negating the loss that is my reality now.
Right.
But the hope that is driving me that she is with Christ. She isn't in any more pain. So for me, what grieving looks like for me is going through that Rolodex of the entire experience, remembering all of that from my earliest memory is my 2-year-old birthday party and my cake falling and I'm crying, or them singing happy birthday to me and I'm crying, and my mom embraces me and she embraces me, and it's just like just going through all of that and actually sitting with those emotions, whether they are good emotions or anger or questioning or whatever the case may be, sorrow, and really just sitting in those moments, but taking them to the Lord and saying, God, this is where I'm at right now. Help me to look at this as you would look at it. Help me to see her not in my last view of her in the hospital, but help me to look at her in these moments. There was life, and there's life now. So I don't know if that is right. That's just how I've been dealing with this process, and now I'm doing the same thing with my cousin, who I didn't grieve before. But I remember this process. I remember vividly as an 8-year-old doing this with my cousin. Like, remember playing FIFA.
Yeah.
Remember kicking the ball with him. Remember him lifting me up so that I can dunk. Remembering all of it. Remember him laughing at me whenever they mean child bit me and I'm crying. Like, remembering all of these things. I remember that as an 8-year-old.
So do you think, maybe you don't know, do you think that you did better then than now because as an 8-year-old you didn't feel like there was expectations on you?
Absolutely.
Like you didn't care. You just don't care.
Yeah. And I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't know any better. It was just this kind of, there wasn't an expectation
right
that I had to get it together.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, I don't know. I'm thankful for my leg in that regard, that I didn't just work myself to the point where it was unhealthy, where I wasn't there. Because if I was working, I wouldn't even, I don't know. It's not fair for me to say, but knowing me, I would have just tucked it away and just kept going. And I would have cried, maybe by myself, in my car, if I happened to be by myself, and then I wouldn't have let anybody see, and I would have just kept going.
So I don't remember who said this to me, but I think the best thing I've ever heard as far as the pain, hurt, whether it's in death or traumatic moments that cause grief, most of the time it's a bag that you can never get rid of. The best thing you can do is make it as light as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's got to be the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how you get there,
Yeah.
like I said, people are wired different. I don't like, and I think that's the big caution I have for people. Some people are able to process and move on way quicker than others. Now, I think, I'm speaking for me, I can't speak for anybody else. I think when it's of natural causes, I think that it's less hard for me to struggle with, because I think that I have a healthy view of we're all going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not like, do I want to per se die yet? No, but I'm not afraid of dying.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that when it's sudden, not expected, I think that's where it's really hard to walk in that moment and not, and to keep try to be as holy as possible in it.
I mean, this procedure that my aunt had, there was a 98% success rate.
Right.
A 98% success rate. She was part of the two, and it's just like.
Well, and that's, I mean, when I heard that, the first thing that popped in my head is, and FYI, I realized that I probably never grieved. No, probably, but one of the assistant baseball coaches in my high school, who was a godly man, taught me how to play. So when I realized pitching was my career, they moved me from middle infield because they need someone that's going to be there all the time. And they moved me to first when I'm not pitching, and I didn't know how to play first, and so he taught me how to play. And I remember him having to go in for a colonoscopy and dying, which is unbelievably rare. And for me, I never really processed through that. I was just kind of like, I can't believe this happened. And then I moved on. But yeah, I think that I think the sad part is, and maybe I'm wrong, I think that the biggest issue, the reason people show limited grace in people that are grieving is because we don't know how to respond. And I think the answer I'd give to people is, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Like, the best thing, like one thing I've learned in this season with you, and just even before this, is just be there and allow them to tell you what they need.
That's one thing. Now, they did a heck of a lot wrong. They did a whole lot wrong. But initially, that is one thing that Job's friends did correctly.
Yes.
They just sat with him for a few days.
Yeah.
Didn't say anything. Didn't offer advice. Didn't, give their 2 cents or, oh, you'll be fine or anything like that. They just sat with him in his grief.
Yeah.
In his sorrow. Now,
when
you read it went downhill from there, but that is one thing that they did correctly. They just sat with him.
Yeah.
Didn't say anything.
No, and I think that's the most, honestly, I think when you're not in the grief, you think that there's so much you need to do for people.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're in the grief, most times we just want you to just blend in with the background.
Mm-hmm.
Like we're not even thinking about you.
Mm-hmm.
And you, when you speak too much, you almost become more of a burden.
Yeah.
And what you think is helpful is probably not very helpful.
Yeah, for sure. I think the only thing, and I wrote a very brief thing, just in the midst of grieving. That's one thing that you can do. Find something to express yourself and the feelings that you have. My thing is writing. It's just something that has helped me. So there's some advice.
Yeah.
But also, I think the big thing for me, in my experience, is don't just move on and never come back to actually grieving, because you never know where it's going to manifest itself in your other relationships. Whether that is becoming distant towards everybody around you, becoming just angry, bitter, like it's going to affect you if you don't actually grieve. So that's the biggest thing, is like, don't just sweep it under the rug and never come back to it, because you're going to see it rear its ugly head somewhere else in your relationship. So, you have anything? No? All right, so it's not spoken word, so it ain't gonna rhyme. In case you're thinking that it was gonna rhyme, it's not gonna rhyme. But this is just something that I wrote. I said, grief can feel like winter. Cold air hurts the skin. The sun rarely shines and hibernation feels only natural. But one day the sun comes out. Snow melts away and signs of life return. Flowers start to bloom and the world looks a bit more beautiful. The work of grieving is much like waiting out the winter. You can't rush it. Can't make it go away. In this season of grief, when the world outside my window sleeps under a blanket of snow, the only solution is to wait. Underneath the snow, I know important work is happening. The earth is resting. And as much as me wanting to hurry winter along, the waiting is necessary for spring's flourishing. There's always winter.
Yeah, that's good.
Every year there's a winter. But what happens every year after winter? Spring comes. So, grieving isn't the end. It's never the end. It's a part of the process. But spring is coming. Restoration is going to happen. Flowers will bloom. Everything will come together for those of us in Christ. That is the spring that's coming. Even if for the rest of your life you feel like the rest of your life is a winter, if you're in Christ,
Spring is coming.
Spring is coming.
Well, that's good.
This has been Culture on Tap. Thank you guys for tapping in with us. We will see you guys next week. Playing the best classic hits. You can download the Houston Radio Platinum app. It's in your app store. Just ask Alexa to play Houston Radio Platinum.